My name is Clara, and to this day, no one but two people know this story. But I mean to tell it because even now, every December, I still can't sleep properly. Last year, I was coming home late from work almost every night. It was December, so the city center was full of lights, stalls, Christmas music, and far too many people. I hated the chaos, but it was the fastest way to get to the subway. It was during the first week of December that I noticed him. A man wearing a red coat. Not a Santa coat, just a thick blood red coat. What caught my attention was how out of place he seemed. Everyone else was rushing, carrying shopping bags. He wasn't. He was just standing there watching. And watching me. The first day, I thought it was a coincidence. The second day, I felt that familiar discomfort, that instinct that whispers something is wrong. He stared at everyone, but whenever I walked past, his gaze locked onto me, like he knew me. On the third day, I realized he was following me, discreetly, not too close. Just close enough to keep me in his line of sight. I changed direction, he changed too. I went into a shop. He appeared minutes later and didn't buy anything. I decided to ignore it. My mind had to be exhausted, right? The next day, I left work early just to avoid running into him. It was around 6 p.m. The sky was already dark. I walked down a quieter street, the usual one, when I heard footsteps behind me. Long, steady, matching my pace. I turned my head just slightly and my heart almost stopped. It was the red coat. He didn't look away. He didn't pretend. He didn't try to hide anything. He just walked behind me, staring. I rushed into a bakery, ordered something I never even ate. He stayed outside, waiting, watching me, and after a few minutes he left. After that, my life became a waking nightmare. I changed routes, changed schedules, even changed the way I dressed. Still, he appeared. Always there. Always close enough to see me. Never close enough to confront. I started shaking every time I saw a red coat. My world shrank, my body felt smaller, sleep disappeared. It completely ruined my Christmas. I avoided crowded places, main avenues, anything busy. Until a few days later, he crossed the line. I was walking down a street at the beginning of the evening. Shops were about to close. I was alone when suddenly I felt exposed. That's when he grabbed my arm. It wasn't hard. It wasn't violent. It was precise, surgical, as if he wanted to make it clear he could do worse at any moment. When I turned around, all I saw was a balaclava and a hood. Dark fabric. The red coat. No face. He pulled me slightly like he was choosing me. I tore my arm free and ran, desperate, tripping over my own feet, screaming louder than I realized. People stared, shocked. Some rushed toward me to help. And when everyone looked around, he was gone. Swallowed by the crowd, by the chaos, by Christmas. That crowd that was supposed to protect me, hidden too. I don't know who he was. No one ever found anyone like him on the cameras. The police said it could have been a misunderstanding or someone accidentally bumping into me. But no one grabs you like that. No one pulls your arm with that kind of calm. No one appears and disappears like that for months. But I didn't know it could get worse. A few days later, already living on the edge of a breakdown, something happened that I still can't explain. As I climbed the stairs to my apartment, I found a piece of red fabric on the top step. Small, like it had been torn from a coat. I froze. My mind immediately made the connection, but was it just paranoia? A coincidence? I forced myself to believe it was. I needed to believe it. But the coincidence ended the next night. When I came home from work, there was a letter shoved under my door. A thin envelope, no sender. Shaking, I opened it. The handwriting was firm, mail. The message was worse than any nightmare. You look prettier when you're tired. I don't like it when you come home so late, my love. 9 p.m. is very dangerous for you to be alone outside. Something could happen. I see everything. I feel like we're getting closer and closer. My blood ran cold. For a moment, I thought maybe someone in the building was playing a cruel joke. But the next night, another letter. And another. And another. Each one more personal, more intimate, describing my scent, my clothes. He knew my schedule. He knew when I took out the trash, when I left, when I came back, and there were no cameras in the apartment hallways. Management had never installed any. Anyone could walk those corridors. Anyone could reach my door unseen. That's when I realized something horrifying, something that made the ground disappear beneath me. He wasn't just following me in the streets. He lived in my building. There was no other explanation, but the building had nearly 200 apartments. Families, students, workers, elderly people. Anyone could be him. Any door could hide that face I never saw. And one of the last letters, the one that made me flee weeks later, he wrote, "You don't need to be afraid of me. I'm already here. I always have been." I dropped the envelope, locked everything, blocked the door with furniture. I spent the entire night awake, listening to every sound in the hallway like it was the end. When I started losing control of my own routine, I knew I had to do something, anything, to get out. But I didn't have the money to just move. And then the only good thing that happened that year occurred, an unexpected transfer at work. A coworker quit without notice, and a position opened in another city, far away. I didn't hesitate. I accepted the transfer the same day, signed everything without really reading it, and within 2 weeks, I was packing my entire life into boxes. That transfer saved me. That's how I got out of that building. That's how I broke the only link that kept me accessible to him. And the strangest part, the moment I moved, everything stopped. No more letters, no red coat on the street, no presents behind me on my way to work, nothing. It's as if he vanished from my life the second I left that building, which only confirms my worst suspicion. He was inside the whole time, living near me, maybe next door, maybe above me, maybe just a few feet from my door. And that's why, to this day, whenever I see someone wearing a red coat, my heart starts racing because my mind can't stop asking, does he still remember me? Last Christmas, I decided to do something different. My family lives in another city, and I was exhausted by the chaos, the traffic, the loud parties. I wanted silence, peace, so I rented a small cabin in the countryside, 3 hours away, down an almost deserted road. It was the worst decision of my life. The road was so isolated that my phone lost signal long before I arrived. Snow covered everything, and the wind made the car shake. When I finally reached the cabin, I realized it was even older and lonelier than in the photos: dark wood, small windows, and silence. A silence so deep it felt alive. On the first night, while unpacking, I felt like someone was watching me through the window. There was nothing outside, just snow, bare trees, and darkness. I tried to ignore it, but that was before I found the first sign. The next morning, I woke up early to walk near the forest. The snow was untouched except for something that made me stop: footprints. A trail of deep footprints leading straight to the cabin window and then disappearing. The problem was they weren't mine, and they came from a direction where there was no trail, no road, nothing. I ran back inside. I spent the rest of the day trying to distract myself, reading, drinking hot chocolate. I convinced myself it could have been a previous guest, maybe a hunter, maybe someone passing by. But on the second night, I woke up to a sound. 3 knocks, low, slow, heavy, on the door. I froze. No one should have been there. No one knew I was there. I stood still for several minutes, barely breathing, waiting for a voice, another knock, anything. But there was nothing. Just snow, wind, and silence again. In the morning, when I finally gathered the courage to open the door, I found a leather glove on the ground, wet, far too large to belong to any woman. And worse, the glove hadn't been dropped. It was placed neatly, as if someone had left it on purpose. On the third night, things went beyond anything rational. I was reading in the living room when I heard footsteps, steady footsteps on the porch. Someone walking slowly, like they knew I was listening. I turned off the lights and stayed completely still. The footsteps stopped right in front of the window. I couldn't see a face, just a large silhouette, standing there, unmoving, as if breathing against the glass. I had no weapon, no neighbors, no cell signal. After several minutes that felt like hours, the figure simply walked away. The next morning, I decided to pack my things and leave, even if it meant driving 3 hours through the snow. I had to get out before something worse happened. But when I went to the car, the keys were gone. I searched every bag, every pocket, everything. And then I noticed the detail that completely paralyzed me. There were footprints again. And this time, the tracks went from the forest to the cabin door, from the door to the car, and from the car back into the forest. That's when I understood. He had entered the cabin while I slept. He came inside. He was right there, and he took my keys. I packed everything quickly, locked the door, and hid in the bathroom, the only door with a reinforced lock. I stayed there for hours, shaking, listening to every sound, until I heard an engine. A car. I peeked through the bathroom window. An old pickup truck stopped right in front of the cabin. A man got out, wearing a heavy coat and a beanie. He opened the cabin door with my keys, walked inside, and started calling out, "Miss, are you still here?" My throat tightened. I had nowhere to go. But when he opened a drawer and pulled out an ID badge, I realized something that almost made me collapse. He wasn't the one stalking me. He was the owner of the cabin, and he had come to check because my car was no longer outside. My keys had been returned, placed on the table, which means the man at the door, the man who left the footprints, the man who had been inside the cabin, was not the owner. He was never found. To this day, whenever December comes and I see snow covering the ground, I feel the same cold I felt in that place. And no matter where I am, whenever I see footprints in the snow, I have to look twice just to make sure they're mine.